Ready?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay, Chavdalet. V'animshol mikol anal l'maske l'mayla, yuvan shepchinas atzmus ataynog aposhet sh'ba'atzmus ha'insoiv kodem atzimtzum, hu ha'nikri shashua melech ba'atzmusei. Shehu b'pchinas ein sof mamish. V'gam yud sfiras ha'atzmiyim shu keser v'ad malchus ein sof, hakol b'pchinas ha'einig aposhet ba'atzmusei. In other words, even, like you said, whether by Morkov, whether by Poshet, even the 10 Sfiras HaYulim, their kiyum comes from their kesed. Al derech marshal shagam achesed ha'atzmi shebenefesh, ikar kiyumo ha'oinig. That's why he called it chafetz chesed. Ve'im kol zeh be'emes, hari atzmus erin seif, moved all gam epchinas tainuk Poshet. Really, like you said, ve'eno can. It's not really like that. It's not really like that. The atzmus is really higher than the actual tainuk Poshet. Rak shenimshach u'meir b'pchinas ha'enek, moshe ba'atzmus ha'nefesh, tumshach ahar ha'enek chulu. Same like what was explained in chapter 23. That's why it said there's nothing higher than ha'enek, but it's not really true.
Right.
כמו בבחינת חופש חסד שבעצמוס, שיש בו התיינוג הפשוט, הוא נמשך אומר בתייסס ער, because of the תיינוג, עד שירי דבר גם בדבר נבדל, שהוא בבחינת התיינוג ורוצן הקודם הנ"ל. In other words, the תיינוג הרוצן compared, even though it's לעצמו, compared to the תיינוג העצמי, is already according to the world. The Tainugan for Dover Nivdal. She'achatzim, zum Leo is Mittler Hishtalshelut Dabia, ad she'yered l'nimshach b'siyum hakol, v'hu gam b'prat es esfiras yeser achan she'batzilus. Even in the final thing. Now, batzilus, the oineg, but the thing is really, it's all the same oineg. Al derech marjan now, the oineg ha-nimtza l'kiyum midas ha-nitzuach kai gavna, זה שם בית חיים, דעתיגיון וערך אנפין, שהוא התייניג והרוצון, שמאוס אחסם, ואין זה בלא זה. ונקראים, גימול ריישן מתקלפין, דה לגוימין דה. So, how is it that teinig and rotzen, 1, 2, is 3?
Right.
So what's the third ration? The third ration is the Radlah.
Right.
Which means that there's the Tainug and the Ratzin, and then there's the Ratzin, the Tainug and Ratzin Bilti Morgosh, which is Radlah.
Right.
Which is the Tainug and Morgosh and the Tainug and Bilti Morgosh. Which the Tainug and Bilti Morgosh is like the Tainug you get from breathing. But your mamish don't feel it. Your mamish don't feel it, but if Chas v'Sholom it's missing, you see that it's bigger than all the other Tainugim put together. Well, if and you never know which one is the inside one. Melubash, mitgalfin, you know what mitgalfin means? Engraved, one inside of the other.
Right.
Melubash. So it says, Hu atayne barotzen shomos echad hem, before the parenthesis. Ve'en zeh below zeh, melubash toch kol sphiro v'prati pratius. Shibilado en lokiyam klal. It goes all the way down to the particular spheres of Atzilus. Canal by vehicles, and really it goes down even for double nibdal and spheres of Biyah. And really it goes even farther down. It really goes even into the spheres of Klippa. And it really goes down even into the spheres of the three Klippas Atmeus, that Tainug in those things is literally the Tainug Atzmi of the Eibishter. And that's why it's a sin.
Right.
That's the whole reason why it's a sin, is that you're using the Tainug Atzmi of the Eibishter to have this Tainug. Right. Literally, in other words, in Tainug, there's really no difference. Not only there's no difference between it, like he said, that the Tainug and Rotzen is one Mo, is Ben B'Poshet, Ben B'Morkov. The real thing is like this, that the Tainug and the Rotzen is the Hamshocha, what they are is the Hamshocha of the soul itself.
Right.
In other words, and the Tainug Atzmi, the Tainug Eibishter is the Hamshocha of the Eibishter himself. That's what it is. Whether with a Pashut or whether with a Murkov.
Right.
And that's the whole thing of what it is, that when somebody's into a Tainug of Klippa, his mamish, his soul is being pulled after it. His Etzema Neshama is being pulled after it. And not only Etzema Neshama, he's mamish using the Tainug of the Eibishter to this thing. And that's why it's a sin. Kanal Barichus. The Gam Hu Makif is Kulam. So the same thing, it's Mamish Malubash in each one of them, and it's a Makif on all of them. K'moshim Board Mokam Acher, the Moshel Yud Chafirut Zeh Chazeh, Shaar HaYichud and Nimshech is a Kol Chafira v'Chafira. In other words, if he makes 10 holes with a line between each one of them,
Right.
and he fills up, he stands there with a hose, and he's filling up the first one. And then the first one overflows through that little channel into the second one. And then the second one gets filled up. And then it overflows into the third one. All the way till the 10th one. That Shaar HaYichud Nimshech is V'kol Chafira v'Chafira. It's not really different water. It's mamish the same water that he put into the first one. That's what's going into all of them. Meaning still the last one, the Chayus that went into it, is the same Chayus of the Tainug Atzmi that went into the first one.
Right.
Again, Am Bazar Avad Mana Rava. I think Mana is clothing, no?
Right.
Bekari Ba Garmi, and he called with it his clothing. Chachem Kolu Chachem Lo B'Chachem Edia, etc. Again, Masha Amar Apik Yu Tikunin. And tikunin also, tikunin means actually clothing. It means, how you fix yourself up with your clothing, So, Krina Lon Yud, and he calls these clothing the 10 Sfiros. Lios ki Prinat Atik Yom and Nechshav Meseif Elam Ha'ensav Adayim. Lafi, Sho'elam Ha'ensav Nechshav Ad Prinas Malchus Ak. Shu Prinas Oisif Meseif Maiseh Shalab Machshov Rosh Nakodem now. In other words, Malchus of Ak is the end of the Maaseh, which came up in the Rosh Nakodem. V'hu Prina Achreinish Ba'atzmi. In other words, that's the Malchus of his self-image. That's the last Prina of himself. Shenas HaKesed Atik. That last thing of the self-image, meaning of how he feels that he should act, in other words, what he should do outside of himself, that becomes Keser of Atik, which is the pnimius of the Tainug, what he'll have a Tainug in. Like we said before, that the Tainug is according to his self-image, that he'll have a Tainug in this and not in that.
Right.
That's the Atik is the revelation of the light of the Einig from the hidden Einig in the Rosh Nakodem. How can Gam Kesed the Atik v'Chochma Bina the Midah Shabai? How can Nechshav Misav Elam Ha'ensei? It's still considered, like we said before, the whole Atik is considered not just the Gimel Ration. In particular, it's really only the Gimel Ration that are totally not Melubash, but nonetheless, since the whole thing of a seer is its Keser, so therefore the whole Atik is considered like that. It's all considered Misof Elam Ha'ensof. Aval Pinas Arach Anpin, Shehu Pinas Gilu HaRotzeh, Sheba Machamas Ha'oineg, Lieza Nimshach, Ubal is Pashat Lamata. In other words, that's the Rotzen that comes because of the Oineg, that he decides that he wants a certain Oineg, so therefore he has a Rotzen for a certain thing. Now the Rotzen is ready for the thing. It's not just for inside of himself. The Oineg, even when he's having the Oineg, it's himself that's having the Oineg. That's the difference between the Oineg and the Rotzen. Whereas the Rotzen is for the thing. That's what it means. You want the thing.
Right.
Although really the Rotzen is also if you look at it closer, you'll see that the Ratzon is really also just still, at any level, it's really still part of the Atmos, because what you want is that you should have the thing. It's not just you want the thing.
Right.
You want that you should have the thing. You want it for yourself, really. רצונים של בעל התפש למטה, כלהו הנקרא ראש ושרש הנצולים, שהן עשר ספירס דאצילוס בכלל ובפרט. וזה נקרא בחינס הכסר בכלל, בחינס ממוצע. That's why the kesser in general, but nonetheless, they're really one thing, the Tainug and the Ratzon. That's why it's called ממוצע, שיש לו מבחינה אחרונית שבעצמוס, והוא ראש לנצולים, and it's also the ראש of the נצולים. כי ארץ הנצולים, שהן בחינס גילו ההלם, הרי הן בחינס נבדל מן העצמוס כנ"ל. The gilui of the Ratzon, that's already a separate thing, because that's already a Ratzon for mamish for something. It's not like a Ratzon HaKodem. The Ratzon HaKodem is really still for himself. Here it's already mamish the Ratzon to have this thing. Kanal boys yid beis, וכמו על דרך משל המידוס חסר גבורה בדובר נבדל, שבהם מכוח המידוס חסר גבורה שבעצם חולו. Meaning, Shabbatim over here, he means Ak. And Ak comes from the Koyach HaMidos of the actual Midos HaYulius. But nonetheless, is the actual Tainug in Ratzon, which comes from the Atmos, is Mamish, Malubash inside of everything. Liyos kiyum otam is mamish the Tainuga Atmi means hapashut in the Oirein Seif. The Nesh Shor is there Tainug v'Aratzim ba'atmos Oirein Seif shnikra Shashua Melech ba'atmai chulo, because the Shorish of this Tainug is directly connected to one thing connected to the other, like the Hishtalshelut of a chain. This thing is mamish connected to over there. It's the same thing, like the Chebel Nachlosa that you're writing about just now. And Derech Hayim.
Right.
So when you pull one side of the cord, the other side of the cord will pull. In other words, if there's a Tainug like that in the Shashua Mel Batmusay, so that's the Tainug which will come out in the Proteospheres of Atzilus.
Right.
That's what pulls. And vice versa, if you pull on the thing on Atzilus, it'll pull upstairs. And this is the same thing. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is the whole thing that it's talking about in chapter 1 of Derech Hayim, by the way.
Right.
It goes all the way down to here. That if you pull down here, when the Jew pulls down here, either way, even if he pulls it into Klippus Atuma.
Right.
It's pulling all the way up to the top. And it's making a blemish upstairs. And even though, like it says, Tahirahi, in other words, upstairs there is no blemish.
Right.
The blemish can be in the intermediary levels, but nonetheless, it's affected by it.
Right.
The soul is mamish affected by it. As a matter of fact, I can't remember where I read this. There's a thing from the Mittler Rebbe where he explains how hell works. That it's mamish imprinted on the soul. And then when he goes upstairs, like they say, all of these near-death experiences, you go up and it's so beautiful and everybody comes up and all your buddies come up and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's so wonderful, and everybody says, oh, it's like being in heaven. He says, no, that's the beginning of hell. They don't get it. They don't understand. They don't know what happens next, because they came back down already. Most of these people didn't die all the way.
Right.
Because what happens next is the angels start singing Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish.
Right.
And then he wants to run with angels.
Right.
And then all of these things that are imprinted on his soul, like it says that the mitzvahs are imprinted on the air of Gan Eden.
Right.
And the Averos are imprinted on the air of Gehenna. And then all those things like his mother and his father and all the wonderful memories and everything like that, they hold on to him.
Right.
And he's trying to run with the angels, and all of a sudden he realizes, wait a minute, I'm not in heaven, I'm in hell.
Right.
And they're holding on to him. And this is also and that's already like normal stuff. Then there's bad stuff, It says that a guy came to the Arizal. And
right.
I don't remember what he was, a rich guy, and he was trying to, scam the Arizal, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Rizal told him, don't you need a tikkun? So the guy said, what do I need a tikkun for? He said, for the shiksa you went with.
Right.
He said, what do you mean? I never went with no shiksa.
Hold on a second, let me flip the tape.
Shiksa. So the Rizal said, it says that, when you go, whatever woman you go with, she gets connected to you. And he brought her out of his body.
Right.
He showed it to him that she was actually holding him.
Right.
Then the guy fainted.
Right.
So everything, whatever you see and whatever you do, is all holding on to you.
Right.
And how does it hold on? It's from the oineg. So the oineg is consciousness.
Right.
That oineg that he had in it, that was the thing. What it says that Rabbeinu HaKodesh said that he never enjoyed the world even with his small finger.
Right.
And that's the whole thing with the Chibut HaKever and the Gilbul and the Gehenna and all that. It's all to take that off from your soul.
Right.
It's all for. As far as fooling the Rebbe,
Right.
One of the people, he's an old guy, old Lubavitch, and he stutters a little bit.
Right.
And he told us how he first met, how he became a Lubavitch Chassid. He used to go to Misnagdish yeshivas.
Ah.
And he was looking for a Rebbe. And he went to all these Rebelach,
Right.
He went to all these Rebelach, and he would ask him questions in Talmud, to test them.
Right.
And he never, whatever. And once, his friends knew, so he had some Lubavitcher friends, and they knew that, and he had already given up. He figured, all these Rebbes, nobody knows nothing. So they convinced him to come by Chassidus to the Frierdiker Rebbe.
Right.
So he went. He didn't want to go. He said, I already know from all these Rebbes, and I don't remember exactly what he wanted to do already. He wanted to fly out according to the erech of those times, not really fly out,
Right.
He wanted to become a businessman or something like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
And he went, and in those days, Yechidus by the Rebbe wasn't really Yechidus, it was like dollars.
Right.
There was a Farbrengen, and during the Farbrengen, he was all squished in, and he didn't even see the Rebbe. He just heard him. And then after the Farbrengen, everybody would go by the Rebbe for Yechidus.
Right.
Yechidus, it was mamish like dollars. You just went by the Rebbe, and you gave him a tvittel or something, or just said a bracha to you or whatever, and the next guy. Well, that was called Yechidus.
Right.
And he said he was in this corridor, and they were pushing, and he was being pushed into the cabinet. He thought his legs were going to come off.
Right.
And he said, "What am I doing here?" He was saying to himself. But he's stuck, Once you're in that push, there's no way you can get out of there. And then it came around a bend, the corridor bend. And then you could see the Rebbe.
Right.
And he was looking through people at the Rebbe, and all of a sudden, he said the Rebbe looked up and looked at him for a second. Just looked up and looked at him for a second. He said he started, to this day, his stuttering gets worse when he tells this part of the story, and he starts trembling and he turns white. When he remembers how the Rebbe looked at him. Apparently the Rebbe was very hidden. The Friedrich Rebbe was also, sometimes it was hidden, but once in a while, he says people used to faint sometimes.
Right.
So the Rebbe looked at him for 1 second, and he started trembling. He turned white. And he said he got so scared he almost fainted, and he didn't even go by the Rebbe. He just stayed where he was till the Rebbe left. And that was it. The Rebbe looked at him for a second. And after that...
That's the Rebbe or the Friedrich Rebbe?
Friedrich Rebbe, yeah.
Okay.
Looked at him for 1 second. So, and 3 weeks later was Yud Shvat.
Right.
So it was only one time by the Friedrich Rebbe. He said that one time. 1 second the Rebbe looked at it. He fixed him up forever.
Right.
So you don't mess with the Rebbes, You're not going to scam. You're going to scam the Rebbe, Neither Lubavitch Stockhold, that this time the Gross of Lubavitch Stockhold, just came a time, Neshashur Zat, Tiny Baros and Batsmus are in Sefnik Shashua Melech Batsma. It's Mamish connected to there. Ukamoshla Nefesh, Nimshach HaKaloinig, it's Mamish the Nefesh itself that comes after the Einig. Shemizeh Raya, Sha'einig Memale Eira. Hulu. It shows that the Einig is what fills up the actual Midah, even down to a desire for an ice cream. It's the soul itself that gets pulled after it. So the same thing over here, that all the way to the particular Midos are connected all the way to the Shashua Melech Batzmusei. Im ken gam ize atzma hu atam sha'einek pratish v'kol prat min ha'eres hu iker kiyom achulu ad shegam b'chinas malchus shu'ait nasus lule ataynok shaboy en lo kiyom, doesn't have a kiyom at all. The heder ara eineg u'chinas heder mitziusa. If there's no eineg, the midah does not have an existence at all. It's dilamated.
Right.
The kol zeh derech klal. All it is in general. In general, Atik is part of Atmos, and Arich is connected to the world. Aval derech prat, hina rak p'chinas gimel reish na Atik yamenim shem p'chinas Atmos. Aval zayin tachtoinet shebei malubash begolgolta d'arich anpin.
Right.
Chesed the Atik yamin begolgolta, ugvur mochas imachulu. Vezeu ha-mitnasim imei seilam. So look, Yadua, Leo, ki Tavos, Ika, Harotzim, Minatainu, Gurak, Mepchinas, Hamida, Shabbatainu. Over here he explains, Mitnasim, Mes Olam, is that Gimel, Reish, and the Atik are higher than the Midos of Atik.
Right.
In different places, you'll call your Mes Olam different things. So it's all the same Indian, really. Kmo, Minaches, Shabbatainu, Al Derech Marshal. Wait. Amitznos mis Elam kedol liot kitabot Ika Rotzim Minataynu Gurak Mipchinas Hamiduk Shabbataynu. Kmo Minachesh Shabbataynu Galerach Marshal Kasher Adam Ba'eneg Besimchas Chasunas B'nai Kai Gavna Az Yati Brachasta L'kol Mitzad Ataynu Kshermerim Emet Nafsha Mitam Anal.
Right.
That he has the great Tainug, and then he'll do a lot of chesed because of the great Tainug that he's having. So that's called chesed of the Tainug. At that time, that's a good time. Like by a king, for instance, you can ask him to, what do you call it? Commute the sentence?
Yeah, pardon.
Pardons, yeah. That, like a Hashverish, and he gave a Hanocha Lamedinas, he relieved them from taxes and stuff like that.
Right.
Because Chesed of Atik can change the Etzem HaRotzen from a Rotzen of Din to a Rotzen of Chesed. This can only be done when you're higher than the actual line of right and left. So you see that the Chesed is the Melubash higher means in the Golgotha itself. Tam Kamus LaRotzen. Shezel Ledaklik Barotzen Shia Be'efen Zedav Kavalov Be'efen Acher. In other words, the Gvura of the Tainug is because of the Gvura of the Tainug that the Tainug has limitations that he'll enjoy this and he won't enjoy that. So therefore, in the Chochmas Tima is to be medactic to want this and not to want that.
Right.
Because that's the Gvura. So the Gvura of the Tainug is Melubash and Chochmas Tima of Arich.
Right.
Robert and Achapullah. More Shnema B'Sifra Kabbalah Rishonim. Gazru Eima La Chochma Shmibchinas Din. In the old Sifra Kabbalah, they're saying about Chochma is B'Chinas Din.
Right.
And how is that? Because everywhere you see that Chochma, it says the Chochma is B'Chinas Chesed. So which one is it? It says Chochma, the Chochma Gluya is B'Chinas Chesed. Because that comes out of Chesed of Arich.
Right.
But Chochma, the Chochma Sima of Arich is B'Chinas Din. That when you're smart, when the Rotzen comes according to the Seichel, there's a diktuk, it should come like this and not like that.
Right.
Not you just want anything what you want. When it says the Eraisa comes from Chochma, it's not just from Chochma, it's from Chochma Ilo'a.
Right.
Meaning from Chochma of Arich.
Right.
Chochma Sima'a. Yesh dinim rabim. So you see that the whole Torah is with a whole bunch of dinim. And it says, Mipi HaGvura.
Right.
So it means that Chochma Sima'a comes from Gvura of Atik. And the Torah, the whole thing of the Torah is dinim. The main thing of the Torah is the 630 mitzvahs.
Right.
That's the whole main thing of the Torah, that even to the point that the Rashi asks a question when they start the Torah, why is he starting with Bereshit? You know the first Rashi?
Right.
He says, why is he starting with a Bereshit? The Torah is dinim. What do you have to have stories for?
Right.
It's not necessary. Start with the halachas. Masha Enkin, the Ara should give him Midas Harachim, Milamayla Mechochmish Baratzen. Shenoise Alvin. That there, it has to go, when it goes from higher than the Yidgilul Midas Harachim, really, like, did we get to that part yet? No, that's later. That the Mazolas, really, even though they come from lower, it's Mitikuna Digna de Arich, but really their source is higher than that. Their source is in the Golgotha.
Right.
And really even higher, therefore it's nicer oven. It can nullify an oven, whereas the Torah says if there's an oven, there's a punishment. And certainly, if it can be like that from the Golgotha, so from Gimel Reish to Atik, which is even higher than that, if
right.
you built him a Lubash Menetzolim, totally built him in the Lubash Menetzolim, that can certainly change around nice oven. So, the Rotzen, in other words, the Indian of Gimel Reish Atik is a tainug before the Rotzen actually came out of it to have a Rotzen for something. But the rotzen is nonetheless inherent in it.
Right.
So nechshav, and the gimel ration is nechshav ma'atzmus ha'tainug ha'poshus ha'klali. It's considered the etzem ha'tainug ha'poshus ha'klali, shehu mebchinas moker kol ha'tainugim sheba'atzmus harein seif. Which is, for the moker kol ha'tainugim in atzmus harein seif. In other words, atik is directly connected, like a rope. In other words, that's the whole thing of Hishtalshelut. And then, as a matter of fact, really the whole Inyan here is, you see, like every time we go a level down, he says, oh, until here it's mamish atzmus harein seif.
Right.
And then we go another level down, he says, oh, and till here is also mamish atzmus harein seif. And really, the real thing is that it's one line, literally, from the top to the bottom, one straight line.
Right.
And the thing that is a Hishtalshelut with a lot of rings makes absolutely no difference.
Right.
Because that's the whole Inyan what it says in chapter 1 of Derech Chaim. When you pull on one end, you're pulling the other end.
Right.
Doesn't matter. And that's also in Hilchos Kinyan.
Right.
A Masera. You know what a Masera is? A Masera is a rein.
A what?
A rein for a horse.
No. Right.
When you give a rein for a horse in the hands of the other guy, he made the kinyan. If he just pulls the horse. Now, he doesn't pull the horse, he pulls on the rein.
Right.
When he pulls on the rein, he's pulling the horse.
Right.
So the thing is, when he pulls all the way down here, he's pulling the upstairs, whatever's connecting to it.
Right.
Means it's not only pulling the rope, he's pulling whoever's connected to the rope on the other side.
Right.
All the way to the Asmus.
Yeah.
שהוא מבחינת מוקר כל התענוג יש בעצמו אין סעיף. כמו שנאמר, כי אימך מקור חיים, מקור כל התענוגים שברוצים קודם כולו. The Mokar Chaim, like he said, the Mokar Chaim is the Tainuk.
Right.
But it doesn't say that you are the Mokar Chaim. It says Ki Imcha, because really it's not, the Atmos is higher than the Tainuk.
Right.
Like he keeps saying. It's like very close. Not only that, it pulls the actual Atmos, like the rein pulls the horse.
Right.
But the rein is not really mamish the horse. Even though it pulls it. So the same thing, the Tainug actually pulls the etzem of the soul, and over here, the Tainug below is connected to the Tainug above, and that is connected to the Eibishter. Mokar kol Tainugim shebrotzen kodem kulu. Which is the mokar of all Tainugim which come out in the Rotzen Kodem. The Nikra, and this Rotzen Kodem is called Atika da Atikim b'klalus hakol.
Right.
The Nikra Atik Yamin. And it's also called, the end of the line is called Atik Yamin. The beginning is called Atika Datikin.
Right.
And Kesed Atilus, which is the same thing, is also called Atik Yamin. And he's saying it's mamish the same thing. That's the beginning of it and that's the end of it.
Right.
Moshe Nemrat B'Daniel V'Atik Yamin Yotiv Chulu Miloshen Zikna. Over here he's saying Miloshen Zikna. Before he said Miloshen Matik Harim, right?
Right.
Shahu Pchinas Nitzchius the Atzmis Oren Seif, the everlastingness of the Atzmis Oren Seif, Shaba Meir Lamata B'Hishtalshelut the Kabbalah, when it comes in the Hishtalshelut of Kabbalah to be married in Atik, it's called infinite time. Not 15 billion years.
Right.
It's an infinity of time.
Right.
So now we can see that the universe is infinite. In other words, lower, it says, everywhere it says lower and lower. So it's like 15 billion years is in Zoh. And then lower down, it's in the Midos of Malchus of Atzilus, it's 7,000 years.
Right.
Then lower down, all the way till a day of Asiya is 1 year.
Right.
And a day, what is it? A day of Yetzirah is 10 years, and a day of Bria is 100 years. But in Atik, it's infinite.
Right.
Even a second in Atik is infinite down here, because it's totally infinite. Hulu, and that's why it's called Atik. How about Musa Mamish, but higher than Atik, Mi'ika Zikna Kamekucha Brichu. Who can say Zikna before the Ebisher? You can't even say time over there.
Right.
There you can't even say Atik. Motion Vorb Mokamacher Be'inyan Va'ed Bechilufi Advan De'echad. The Va'ed, meaning, over here, Va'ed is Atik. Va'ed meaning forever.
Right.
It's the Chiluf Advan of Echad, or before the Tzimtzum. And over here he's making Yechud Ha'ilo and Yechud Ha'Tata'ah, not that Yechud Ha'ilo and Yechud Ha'Tata'ah are qualities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Va'ed, it's a whole different, he's saying the Va'ed is the lower thing, but the Va'ed that he's referring to here is Atik.
Right.
And the Echad that he's referring to here is Kamekucha Brichu Mi'ika Zikna. The Echad Poshut Atzmoi, She'atzmus Ein Sof Shlo Mala Min Azman Di Mekedem. That's of Atzmus Ein Sof that is higher than the Zman of Yemekedem of Atik. Which later on he says that Yemekedem is different things. But over here, Yemekedem of Atik and Yemei Olam is Atzilus.
Right.
Shemeir Bazman, as Azman Gam Kenitzchi, when it lights up in the time of the world, meaning in the time of Atik, then the time of the world, meaning our time of this universe, is also infinite.
Right.
V'az-nikra Atik Yomin, and then it's called Atik Yomin, Chulav Adayla Maven, and that is enough for us to understand.
Very good.
And that was chapter 24. Now the next chapter after this is Aleph.
Right.
But we already did Aleph.
Right.
So we're going to go to 25 next time. Okay, so tomorrow night I won't be here.
Okay.
Okay?